Mondays with McShay. We get it started here with some NFL stuff, and we'll do some college as well. Okay, let's talk about a theme that's been going on now a few weeks. I know you were on it this weekend. We see Darnold in Minnesota. We see Baker post a couple stops. I mean, there's other QBs. I think Malik Willis, LaFleur, on and on and on. Although I think that one's maybe a little bit more debatable. But how convinced are you that it really is the fit in the coaching more so than it is what's inside the quarterback?
I think it's a huge factor in it. I think coaching can prevent quarterbacks from reaching a certain level in their play. I think there's only so many elite coaches, right? There's only so many guys that actually know how to develop, know how to play to their quarterback strengths, and know how to simplify things when things need to be simplified in certain situations. Like Malik is a perfect example. I had him dead to rights. I thought, he's an unbelievable athlete coming out of Liberty. He's got an arm, but even talking to Hugh Freeze, like I remember I've talked to coaches for 20 years now about their quarterbacks, and it's almost always like, oh, you should see him first guy in, last guy out, the leadership, the way he takes the coaching, how quick he is processed, it's the same thing over and over. So when a coach comes, is like, there's some maturity stuff. I don't know that, I got to calm him down sometimes. He comes to the sideline and he can't really recall what happened in terms of play by play. Like, I remember walking away and be like, whew. And he also told me, it was at the pro day, he told me that he talked to the 3 head coaches that day, or 3 general managers, I should say, that day. And then I talked to him at the Senior Bowl, and he's like, I was up there with 6 general managers. So I'm like, he's having these same conversations with general managers, and then Malik falls to the 3rd round. And based on what we saw from Malik early in his career, 3rd round may have been too early, right? Like, get out of here, Tennessee. Like, you're gone. So to see a coach that knows what he's doing in LaFleur, has had success with Jordan Love and what he's been able to do. The coaching tree that he comes from with the Shanahan coaching tree is really like, if I'm hiring a head coach, I'm finding one of those guys. You talk about like Ben Johnson, Detroit is one of those guys that's kind of next up for a head coaching job. But like Mike McDaniel, Sean McVay, even like we talked about Kubiak, and I know the Saints didn't play all that well this past week, but the first 2 weeks with the Saints and Kubiak and what he's done to Derek Carr and kind of taken Derek Carr to a different level for the first 2 weeks. KOC with Darnold in Minnesota. Kyle, obviously, with Purdy and what Brock has been able to do. So, like, you watch guys like LaFleur and KOC and Kyle and Kubiak and McVay and McDaniel, and you're like, why is it that they can do this with guys that aren't considered elite and or have struggled in other places? And then you watch what's going on in some other places, like Tennessee, right? In the past, and we'll see how it plays out this year. You look at what went on for so many years with the Jets before they brought in Aaron Rodgers, because they had to go with a veteran who can bring in his own guy. Like, there are certain Carolina. There's certain places and certain coaches that just can't get out of these quarterbacks what is necessary in order to raise their level. And I'm sitting there on the couch yesterday watching these games. I'm like, why is it? Like, not why is it? That wasn't the question. The question was like, how simple is this? Like, let's not overcomplicate this thing. How simple is this? Like, there's like 8 or 9 guys in the league. Obviously, throwing Andy Reid and a couple other guys. There's like 8 or 9 guys in this league where pretty much, Skylar Thompson may be a little bit different. Like, we're asking too much for McDaniel to turn him into something special. And I'm not saying Malik's going to be anything special long term, but I think in a short period of time, you reduce the play sheet down to something that that is manageable for Malik. You put him in a situation to succeed. You allow him to use his legs. When you call shots down the field, they're well designed. They're well thought out. They're based off of the play action and different things that they've already set up. Like, why is it I'm seeing all these quarterbacks have success with a certain 8, 9 guys in the league, and it doesn't really seem to matter who the other guys are? In terms of the quarterback talent, they're not succeeding in other places. Chicago's tough to watch right now. Like, you can go down the list of the haves and the have-nots in NFL coaching, and it's purely based off of, do we have a guy that can make a quarterback the best version of himself, period. And it became so simple in my mind yesterday.
Specific to Malik, I'd have to see a little bit more.
Of course.
Of what they've been able to do running the football. And I'm rooting for him because I would say of all the guys over the previous years that I've met through the Elite 11 experience, unless he just is, tricked me, but I didn't really get that sense because everybody liked him. He was incredibly, his personality was awesome. And he was so nice.
He's a great guy.
Yeah.
It's hard not to root for him.
Yeah, right. I'm rooting for him. But I
also see the immaturity in him.
But the LaFleur part of this, though, if they liked him enough, that organization, it's certain, the Spurs used to have a run where if the Spurs drafted somebody I didn't like, I just assumed I was wrong about the draft pick.
Right. Yep.
The Spurs had an incredible run there for a while where it's just anytime they did something, I'm like, well, whatever I thought, if somebody I liked, it was I knew I was right.
It was like the Seahawks for 5-6 years with John Schneider. Same deal.
Right. So if Green Bay likes a quarterback enough to acquire him, which is the other funny part about the Malik story of the revenge against the Titans and Will Levis just having these, he's not just throwing incomplete passes. He's lighting stuff on fire and then going, walking away from it. So I'm reluctant to go whatever, this is the game plan. Look at the rushing yards. It has really nothing to do with him. And now we're just adding him as an example because it's Green Bay and their interest in him. I go, oh, okay, well, maybe they see something that a lot of other people didn't see. I wonder, is there anyone from your quarterback past? And this isn't about right and wrong in evaluations, but somebody where you look at, the Baker part of this is very real. The Goff
Sam Darnold, we've talked about Sam Darnold for years.
So you think it's Darnold? Somebody in your past is if this person had just had a better situation, Sam Darnold. Okay.
Sam Darnold. And we're seeing it I'm now sitting at Vikings 1:00 appointment. I got the red zone and all these other games.
So how good is it? How good is it actually?
It feels so good because when you sit there and evaluate a quarterback and you see what he can be, you have to recognize his flaws. And I recognized his flaws at USC, but I also saw the ability to extend plays, and I saw a talent level that he had that a lot of other guys don't have. I saw his competitive nature. I saw him come back and make big plays in big time situations. Was it the Rose Bowl, Penn State?
The Penn State game, I fell in love with him. Penn State.
Yeah. But then they'll go back and study all his tape and be like, all right, the work has to be done here to cut down on mistakes. You got to get him in rhythm. You've got to work on his mental timing because it's a little bit like Caleb. He's so used to kind of extending plays and backyard football and all that. But Mahomes, same deal. Mahomes is the biggest extreme of all time in scouting. An absolute mess in terms of his footwork and all those things. He gets 1 year to sit back. He's got Alex Smith helping him. He's got Andy Reid coaching him. And he turns out where he is today. If Sam had, I'm not even saying he needed all of that. If Sam had the coaching that he's getting now from day one, he would have struggled. He would have made mistakes, but there would have been a curve, a progression that we never got to see. And then he goes to friggin' Carolina. Come on, but he also got time with Shanahan as a backup before going to Kevin O'Connell. And now you're seeing all right, there's been some foundation laid. He went, I don't know how many years it was with the Jets and Carolina, 5 years, whatever the combined two spots were. He went about 5 years of not laying any foundation. Then he gets a little bit of time in San Francisco with Kyle. He gets some time with Kevin in Minnesota. And now we're seeing the guy, if the season's over after 3 weeks, he's the MVP of the league. He's playing at such a high level with confidence. And it's not that it was easy to fix the things that he had wrong, but they're fixable. They were all coachable things from day one. Why did it take this long for him to get to this point?
Yeah, you're right. It's 6 years. It's all the stops. And I just think that quarterbacks, once they show, maybe prove is the wrong word, but show that they're not the guy, then it's over for you. I go through all the depth charts at quarterback every August and then into September once the final rosters are announced. And I'm shocked that half of the backups have never played. And it's the hope that hey, I really like this guy. Let's stash him. Let's try to develop him in-house. And then he never really gets enough first-team reps. He never gets any game action. Your starter's just good enough to kind of be average, so you can't really justify benching him or anything.
The preseason's a joke.
Right. Preseason's a joke. Nobody's playing anything real. No real defense. You're not even going up against any starters now. So all that stuff looks fake. And then that backup doesn't really play any meaningful football for like 3 years. And then he's replaced by the next fourth rounder that you kind of liked in college and you have a higher grade on, even though the guy never even get a chance. So the development part of it's gone. And it's just rare. Like I was watching Daniel Jones a little bit. I wasn't super locked into it. It appeared as if it was like, is he actually playing well again now? Like what the hell's going on? Does this extend his window? Do they not want to get out of that massive number? Maybe they renegotiate.
I got news for you. Dayball's one of those guys. When I talk about like Dayball is one of those guys that can actually develop quarterbacks. So the fact that it's taking this long and there's still questions.
But no organization would have this long. Like no one could wait until year 7
Correct.
on Darnold. You would just move. So I'm not even saying like it's the NFL's fault, but once the perception page has been turned on you,
it's tough.
Yeah. Like I would expect Daniel Jones to be a backup. Like I'd have to see a little bit more than the limited viewing that I saw against Cleveland this week. But if you ask me going into the year, like what's going to happen with Daniel Jones, be like, oh, he'll be somebody's backup. Like he'll be backup somewhere else, and he's going to get Mitch Trubisky for a little bit.
Yeah, I'm still kind of on that train, if I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, I think it'd actually be ridiculous to assume that he is the guy in 25 here. He's more likely the first scenario, but it's just hard, even though we've seen some nice turnarounds.
Can we talk about Malik Neighbors just for like 8 seconds?
Yeah, please.
Oh, come on. I'm like,
am I supposed to follow that up?
Yeah, that's it. I said 8 seconds. I think we're like 15 already.
Title this McShay last 8 seconds on Malik Neighbors.
That'll be good. No, but I mean, are you watching him? I know the Giants are tough to watch sometimes, but my goodness, like his ability to separate, his ability to create after the catch, everything we talked about last year. Like it's rare that you have a year where you're like in debates and fights in your draft room. And I know everyone was like Marvin Harrison Jr. He's the number one guy, the best in the generation, all that. But I told you last year, like if my choice, I'm taking Malik over Marvin Harrison. Like that's how.
No, you did.
I had Marvin Harrison as the number 3 prospect in the entire class, but I had Malik too. I don't know. This isn't like, I told you. I'm just saying they're both special players, but there's something. Malik is just different, man. He's different. He's fun to watch.
Yeah, maybe that's part of the Daniel Jones part of it, even. But I would say,
no
like
question
watching Harrison again yesterday, he's doing the exact same stuff where you think he's covered, and he's not.
There's no wrong. Like they're both phenomenal players, and they're fun to watch.
And it was nice to see Rome have a day too, as well for the Bears, for my Bears. All right, Stafford.
Yeah, what's going on? I saw like a tweet. What's the deal? Catch me up to speed. I don't follow your every move. I don't talk to you like every day. Now, okay.
Yeah.
This season, I didn't know.
Yeah, 3 weeks in, I hate it.
I mean, it's a tortured society, right?
Not a lot of history there that makes you feel great about the position, but that's okay. I don't want to be on the fence about every single draft pick. It just gets boring because that's kind of what I've convinced myself based on my own results and the data. Like, I don't know, guys going 1, and I've watched them 3 years in college, and I'm doing podcasts going like, I don't know, maybe.
So
but with him, I was like, there is no maybe. There's no maybe, even though I know deep down there's always a chance.
Let's
like the
talk
number
about
1 guys on another team in 4 years. But that's not
let's
happening.
just have another real brief conversation.
I don't want to do it, but go ahead.
No, I'm just for me, it's all about, all right, so how do we fix this? We just had this really good conversation about the Shanahan tree and Kyle and KOC and Kubiak and McVay and McDaniel and all those guys, right? Maybe it's like bring in Brian Griese for Chicago or someone like I would bring in someone. So I would hand over the organization to someone who actually knows how to develop a quarterback, period. I am not taking a chance that we have a Bryce Young situation on our hand in 2025. I'm not risking another Sam Darnold situation. Like, I'm not doing that. I don't care what it takes. If I'm ownership, I don't care what it takes.
in soccer, they loan out players. What if you went to the Niners and said, we'll give you a first and Caleb Williams, but the deal is you have to trade him back to us?
Just take him for a year and coach him and then send him
24 is probably not going to be great. So just let him be an apprentice. You can even play him. We don't but just you have to send him back to us in 25 after he had a year with Shanahan. But you'll get a first rounder out of it. And just to make the transaction work legally, give us Caleb back for, another 7th or something. But you can keep the first. We don't want to get him hurt behind this O-line.
I mean, it's the most absurd thing you've said, but it might actually help. That's the sad part.
What if the Niners
the absurdity of that situation and the fact that it might actually be an upgrade over what is being offered right now? Think about how ridiculous that is.
Why would the Niners say no to it?
Because they wouldn't say no because they'd never send them back. They'd get their lawyers on it immediately. Fine print.
Okay. All right. I know you want to talk about 2 other things before we get to college ball. This podcast has had a flag on Stafford Appreciation Mountain for years and years and years. And I love that Detroit game because Jordan Palmer had me on and he was like, what do you look at? And I was like, I don't have an advanced metric for college quarterbacks. I don't have this. I've looked at all this stuff. I talked about it way too much because I just am obsessed with the topic. But it's just a very I can't really tell you anything other than when on Saturdays a guy drops back and it's 3rd and 7 and I go, do I feel great or do I feel like there's no chance in hell? And that's what separates those guys. So it's solving the game. It's solving a Saturday. Yes. It's solving a Sunday. And when I watched Stafford opening week against Detroit with all the things that were going wrong around him, I watched a quarterback solve the game even though they lost in overtime. And that is probably my favorite thing to see. And he does it. Look, I'm not telling you he's the best, but he's been doing it at a very high level for a very long time. And yesterday's win was incredible.
I just hope when he retires that there's enough, a high enough level of appreciation. I think people who actually study the game, people who are really care, appreciate him. There's no question. But I guess I'm to a point in my career, I can't promote the guys that know how to do it enough. And if your son is going to go play the game, if you're trying to coach a young quarterback, put on Stafford's tape, how he processes. There's nothing better than seeing the sky cam version. I watched the all 22 and that's great too. But the sky cam version of seeing just behind him with the arms up and the bodies in front of him and the coverage disguise. And there's 3 defenders in the second, third level, in the middle. And then he's throwing the ball to the left of them and the receiver runs into it. It's just, he's as good as it gets right now in the league in terms of there's Mahomes. I get it. But if you're creating a second tier after Mahomes, he's got to be in it. I mean, you don't have Cooper Kupp. You don't have Puka Nacua. Tutu Atwell's your guy, and he goes out and winds up with 4 for 93. They're running the football at Kyron Williams. Just a side note, I still kick myself about Kyron Williams. I loved him in Notre Dame. 2nd round grade on him. Had my conversations in April. He ran a 4.65 at the combine. And so it's
at that size too.
He's undersized, 4.65, trash, right? But I was I still on tape, he's a 2nd round grade. I'm going to put him in the 3rd. He winds up going in the 5th. And just watching him now, 116 total yards, 3 touchdowns in that game. When your 2 studs at wide receiver aren't there and guys have to step up. I don't know. And I love watching the Rams. I love McVay. I love the passion that they have for the game. I love the way Stafford plays. Yeah. He's an absolute dog inside the pocket. Nothing affects him. Nothing affects him. I love Matthew Stafford, the way he plays the football game. And I love watching McVay after. You're such a fucking stud. Grabbing him, hugging him they just won a playoff game. That you can see it with those 2 guys, the work they put in, the love they have for it, and it shows up on the field and the product. Even when they're losing and they're overmatched, it's still great ball on that side of the football.
Okay, you have a minute on Travis Kelce.
Why are we? So I don't understand this. And maybe it's a political thing. Maybe it's the NFL, and maybe I'm going to wind up getting a phone call from the league offices. Maybe it's the Taylor Swift. I don't know. But when you're staring at something so obvious, why? Chris Collinsworth is honest to God, my favorite analyst out there to watch. Most respected analyst, I think, in football for anyone who has half a brain.
Wow.
And for like
Tom Brady, hot seat.
every show I watch, every pregame show, halftime show, postgame show, weekday show, every broadcast I watch for the last few weeks, it's like, are we not allowed to say that he's out of shape? That he's been partying all off season? He's been jet setting around with the most famous person probably in the entire world? That he's drinking on, going to the U.S. Open and he's got cocktails in it. Like,
I don't know, but all right, but look,
stop.
We both know there's a difference between having a drink at the U.S. Open and then thinking that it's just because of I don't know that.
No, I know that. But what I do know is I want you to take a picture from preseason 2022 and then take a picture preseason 2024. They're barely the same human being, Ryan. And everyone's like, we got to get the ball. Why isn't he part of the offense? The defense is double. Yeah, the coverage is this. Here's the thing. Bottom line with Kelce. The coverage and the respect he gets is the same. The athlete is not. Now, is he going to work himself into shape during the season? Yeah, I'm sure he will. He's an unbelievable competitor. He's one of the best to ever do it. And he still finds a way to make a play or two here and there and shows up in some clutch moments. But he's not the same guy right now. Look at him. Just look at his face.
I'm looking at his face right now, and I've got a 22 pickup and I've got a 24 pickup. I don't know. I mean, every picture's different. I remember Derek Jeter showed up one year. It looked like he weighed 275 pounds. And it was just a bad angle.
Saying,
I had a show in Utah,
There's no debating that his body type is different. He's not in the same shape. He's not the same. Like, I don't see the same explosiveness. I see him wearing down a little bit in games. It's okay. He'll work himself back into shape. It's not the first guy ever who's not like quite in the elite shape that he was. And now, like, you're sitting here and you're defending him too. Is there some kind of like message I'm not getting from the league that you're not allowed to say he's not in the same shape? He's not able to produce at the highest level right now, and he'll probably work himself back into shape by week 8, 9, 10 this season. Are we not allowed to say that?
No, I didn't get an email, for the record. I just am looking at the pictures, trying to figure out if I see a different hairstyle. He's got the Sicario Brolin thing going on a little bit, which is a choice, which I also think when you're at a certain level of status, it's like, how weird can I make myself look and still pull all of this shit off? So look, all I'm saying is the athleticism and the lack of impact. I don't know if that's defensively what they're doing, if it's a drop down, if he wasn't working out as much. I don't know. It's probably a fair assumption when you are in that kind of relationship, just jet sitting all over the place, tough to get the crunches in, maybe. But he's also kind of a beast of a dude, so I'd imagine he probably still loves working out.
Can you see this?
I went through the pictures. I can see that one.
All right.
You think there's a significant difference in his face, and it's not the mustache haircut.
I don't even. Yeah, maybe it is. I think he was. I just don't think he's quite in the shape that he normally. I'm not saying he's like
that. I can't disagree with. That
I don't think he's mailing it in. I don't think he's out there busting his ass. He's a great player. Still, he's a really good player now. But you can't be in Hollywood. You can't be doing movies. You can't do 55 commercials. You can't be traveling all around the world. You can't be doing shows like out and carrying Taylor Swift on. You can't be doing all those things and still be the same person physically as you were in 2022.
Okay, I'm not arguing with you. Maybe it's devil's advocate, but I do feel like this is entering that phase of like Rory McIlroy's not playing as well. And it's like, oh, well, he has a girlfriend now. And you go, well, is he the only fucking guy in the PGA that has a significant other?
Just, and all the Swifties can calm down. I'm not blaming it on Taylor Swift. Yeah. I'm not blaming anything.
Uh-oh.
I'm choking up now too. All I'm saying is, when you win 2 Super Bowls, you've got the whole tour that happens after the Super Bowl. He's the most commercialized guy. Like, there's no one else doing more commercials, I don't think, in the league. I mean, he and Mahomes are up there, but I think Kelce's doing more commercials and things. He's been at more events, doing more things socially. It's impossible to carry that schedule and still put in the same amount of time for football.
Right, but I also think if he was dating a girl from Sephora and he looked the same, had the same production, we have a very specific, well-known thing to point to and then blame that thing. And I think
but
it
I'm
happens
blaming
a
the
lot with
commercials and the Hollywood and all the other stuff too. This isn't just you get a girlfriend. I hate that. Like I'm not for that. I'm not here for that. I'm not. I'm here for just the.
You've always loved girlfriends.
Yeah,
like
girlfriends are
haven't.
great. Yeah,
right.
yeah, guys haven't. Girlfriends are great. They actually, to be honest, sometimes they're the best thing for you, right? Anyway, my point is there's a lot of distractions. A lot of distractions and a lot of more so than distractions, time commitments. And I didn't plan on going on a long thing, but I just hear these broadcasts and all these stories of like, oh, well, we got to get him the ball. And why isn't he? I'm just shocked. Collinsworth last night. I'm just shocked that we're here 3.5 quarters in and this is the production. I'm like, yeah, but look at his schedule in the offseason and look at his body type compared to what it has been in the past. He's going to work his way into it. He's just not there yet.
Everything you said may be accurate, may be fair, and I guess I'm just pushing back only for the sake of conversation. I don't leave this going like, hey, I think you're wrong, and the fact that we kind of worked it out of like, I just don't like whenever the athlete's personal part of it becomes public on who the significant other is, girlfriend or wife, and the person isn't playing, and it's like, dude, this is the only guys.
No, it's not. It really isn't.
Right.
It's not Taylor Swift. It's not the girlfriend. It's you've got $120 million podcast. You've got hundreds of millions of dollars in commercials. You've got all these commitments. You're jet setting all over the place. Like it's impossible to do both things to the same. It's impossible to be in the kind of mental and physical shape football wise that you were when this was your only, like your major focus, you know?
I love Collinsworth too. But I would say if there's a tendency to kind of lean in to the like that Manning, that final season with Peyton Manning when he just couldn't make the throws anymore. Collinsworth was like, I did a rant on it where it was like he'd have a completion on some pop up to the sideline outside of the numbers, and Collins was like, I keep hearing he can't, follow.
You're like,
and
it's
dude.
what makes part of what makes him so lovable too.
Right.
So I get it.